to The Set TV. The Set TV is hosted by Ryan and Deanna Lynn Teal. On this episode, we have Andrew Does Hair as our special guest.
So Bruce Lee has a quote where he talks about being like water. Why would somebody as a hairdresser ever bring something like that up? Being like water is being able to flow and to bend and to not get stuck in a box, but to actually be outside of the box. I remember when I got in the industry originally, I thought there were only one length of scissor. It was a 3.5-inch scissor. And I could only take little tiny partings and take every little section. I had to have a personal relationship with every little parting. As I grew in the industry, my mind was open to many, many things. It was open to the thinning shear. And I remember when I first got my very first pair of thinning shears, I was like, I don't know. It looks like perm breakage. I'll never use it. And remember that the owner of the company that was giving them to me was like, no, you have to use it because that's kind of what our whole product is about. So I tried the thinning shear and I liked it. And I heard about a man by the name of Gene Shackhove. And Gene Shackhove was the inspiration for Warren Beatty in the movie Shampoo. And Gene used to cut wonderful precision haircuts just using thinning shears. So that he had a really wonderful bob, a really wonderful graduated bob, a really wonderful 5-point haircut just using thinning shears. I thought it couldn't be done. So I did more research and I started actually doing the same thing just because I thought it might be kind of fun. And it opened my mind to a whole new thing. So my thought, as we watch these shows and as we're bringing stuff to you, is please, try and be like water. Don't get yourself into a hole and be flexible. Because that's the only way you will actually grow as a hairdresser. So tonight's review comes outside of the hairdressing industry. You know those little scissor pouches that everybody wears on their hips when they are working in a salon? In my salon, we don't actually have assigned stations. We have each station, you bounce from one station to the next, so you can just wear all of your tools on your hip. For years, I used to wear just those little like shearling leather scissor pouches until about, I'd say 17 years ago, I was at Sears one day and I came across this wonderful idea. What if instead of using those little shearling leather pouches, if you were to just purchase a Craftsman tool belt? It usually has like a little chain at the end with a little T, and that's for your duct tape. But I just took that off because I never really have any use for duct tape. So this belt I use all the time. I keep my cutting scissors, I keep a razor, I keep my texturizing and thinning shears. So those are my 3 different pouches for my different scissors. This is useless for me. I don't use it for anything. You know, I might put my clips in there every once in a while. Also useless for me. I've tried to use it, but I've never really had any reason for it. I use my clips here and here. This big thing here, I put my towel, my wet towel, or my client's wet towel, so I can just, wipe my hands down if I need it. What's nice about the big deep pockets is that if I want to hold on to my hairspray or any of the product that I'm using, I can just put it right in one of these big deep pockets. But what's super cool about it is because it's a welder's tool kit, I can fit my I can fit my iron in the pocket as well, and it won't burn my leg. So then you just get a belt, any belt you want, and I usually use like a big cowboy belt just to bring attention to it. I get made fun of quite a bit wearing this, but in reality, I think it's a wonderful tool. Just go look for something cool at Sears as well.
I'm DJ Riggs, and you're watching Set TV.
This is The Set TV, Andrew Does Hair.
So here we are. Just got done with a great class with Andrew Does Hair, and we wanted to sit down and just talk about some of the things that we've talked about this weekend, and really just kind of get some background. First things first, Andrew. Welcome.
Hey.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about your history? I know that a lot of people know you from Instagram and know you as the persona, but who is the Andrew that nobody knows, and where did you come from?
Regarding hair, or just in life?
In general, life, both.
When I was a kid, I started playing guitar and never wanted to do sports or any normal stuff. I just wanted to play guitar. Was convinced I was built to be in a band, and I spent 10 years trying to do the band thing and did a small tour and played Warped Tour and recorded a few albums and never made money doing it. And I always wanted to do that, but I feel like I kind of had to, because it's really paid into what I do now as a hairdresser. Just the whole marketing oneself. Like, I was always the guy to market my band, and I would try to look larger than life and better than I really was, because that's what you do when you're in a band. And so that's how I think it kind of prepared me for what I have to do for my career through Instagram and through all the hair shows and things. I to understand the marketing of oneself. It's not about just doing haircuts. It's about doing haircuts and making them available to people. Or making them accessible to people. So in playing music, there was this huge shift for me where I realized if I'm the best guitar player, it's not going to make me any busier or get me any more shows, but if I can write music that more people enjoy, which has nothing to do with being more technically skilled, then that's where it's going to help. And so that background is, it's not what you asked me, but
that's okay.
But it's where it's going.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I started off as a band guy, and it taught me about making things that people like as opposed to making things that I like. And so now I feel like I try to do a little bit of both. Do haircuts for other people, and I do haircuts for me. And I guess aside from that, I'm just an awkward guy. Just weird.
So we were talking yesterday, and you had mentioned, or we had got off on this whole conversation about you really started off as you thought you wanted to be a barber, you thought you were going to be a barber, and then now you have kind of, you've taken a stand that no, you're not a barber, you're a men's hairdresser. Let's go ahead and get back on that conversation, because that was such a good conversation yesterday. I think it'd be really engaging for the audience.
It's not that I started as a barber or started wanting to be a barber. When I got into doing hair, it wasn't cool to be a barber. There wasn't a barber scene. It wasn't popular. In fact, among my friends and my scene, if you went to a barber, you were poor. You were not fashionable. You were not hip. There was no trend. There was no dapper. That wasn't a thing back then. You couldn't find water-based pomade anywhere. This was 10, 12 years ago. Everybody wanted highlighted hair and faux hawks, and so everybody wanted to be a hairdresser. I knew I only wanted to do men's hair, but I couldn't find. And the only part of me that wanted to go to a barber school back then was the part that was people are going to think I'm gay if I'm a hairdresser. I don't care about that now. But the thing that made me momentarily want to be more like a barber is the fact that the GQ crowd stumbled upon those, classic men's haircuts and the side parts and the slick backs and the pompadours. And so those gained favor with the popular kids for a minute. And I thought that to survive, I was going to have to do them as well, and I do them, and I did learn them as well as I could from my barber friends, but I realized that getting into that scene so late, I didn't spend 10 years doing fades and being a barber. I spent that time styling hair and then learned barbering techniques later. So I figure if I was going to try to be a barber, I would have no shot at being anything worth talking about or anything worth listening to. If I was just trying to sell fades, I wouldn't have an edge. And then truly I felt like I would have been a poser if I had done that. It wasn't what I was raised up being or going to or being into. Well, so I had this realization at some point when I was like, okay, I need to be more like a barber, but I'm not a barber. What am I? And I was like, I'm a hairdresser, but men don't have a hairdresser. And I thought that was a weakness, a weird cross, like I messed up. I wanted to do two things that don't go together. I want to play funk and I want to play punk. And then I was like, wait, men's hairdresser. That's not a thing. That's an invented term right now. There's no men's hairdressing. I mean, not in the U.S. anyways. I think that's a term they use in other parts of the world. But And so I almost wanted to take a stand, and not that I have the credibility or anything to reinvent anything, but if I could just do whatever I wanted to with my career, I would want to reinvent the hairdresser and say, hey, look, hairdressers can do short haircuts, hairdressers can do this and that, and almost sort of create a... Okay, I don't like myself all that much, but I figure in the position I found myself in, it might be beneficial to other people if I were to create an example of like, hey, you don't have to be a barber because it's trendy. There's this other option. You could be a men's hairdresser. Like, I don't know, like create like a thing that hasn't really been done before. I don't know. You've been in the scene a lot longer than me. Like, do they have men's hairdressers? Is that a thing?
I think that you're actually kind of trailblazing. I think that there was one, like you were saying, in the 90s. But I think you're actually kind of trailblazing, and the fact that you have stuck out from that crowd, I think is really kind of cool, and that's why I commend you. And there's another reason why I commend you, and it's that whole topic of conversation that you talked about today, but you also talked about yesterday when we were talking, and it was that buddy. Why don't you tell that story about that buddy of yours that came in from England that wanted to learn how to be a better hairdresser, and that story that you told, because it's really compelling, and I think it's definitely something that a lot of people would like to hear.
Okay, so about the time that I was noticing barbering styles become very popular, I thought that I had to learn to do that to succeed, or to get by even, or to just exist. And so I went about meeting a bunch of friends of mine who are barbers and trying to learn the way they... So I spent a good year and a half learning barbering and just submersing myself in that world and learning their terminology and going to barber shows and talking to barbers. And during this time, my friend Jody, who's from London, came to the U.S. because he wanted to do the same thing, essentially. He wanted to meet barbers and learn from them. So he did this like tour across the country, and he stayed with my wife and I and slept on our couch. And during the time he was out here, we hosted a little event at my salon after hours where we all traded tips, and I invited all the barbers I know to come listen to Jody, the hairstylist, and Jody was going to learn from the barbers, and he did very much so. But in talking to him for a minute, we were sitting in traffic one day. He spoke a different language than the barbers that I've been dealing with. They all talked about skill and talent and blend and tight and clean, and there was one goal, and it was like you put everyone in the box. They come to you with imperfections, and you make them perfect, and you make everything perfect, and everything just has to be clean and right and slick and polished. And Jody didn't talk about skill. He didn't talk about talent. He talked about taste. And nobody had ever said that word to me in hair. It was all skill, talent, blend, fade, technique. And then he goes, it's tasteful. And I was like, what? And then furthermore, when he got to talking, when I got to watch him work with hair, he goes, you see this weird cowlick? I'm going to use that. You would just work with the hair and whatever. So somebody would come in with these natural characteristics, and he would work with them and emphasize them and create something tasteful. Where a barber would take someone's natural characteristics and chop them off and line them up and make everybody come out the same. It's almost like this depersonalization of the clients, and Jody kind of sort of had the opposite of that. He was like, you take their personal character, you emphasize it, and you make it tasteful. But that blew me away. And
yeah, I love that. I love that point. I think
from that moment, like I was like, because I've always been insecure. Like, I'm not a good enough hair cutter. I'm not a good enough hair cutter. Now I'm proud of it. I'm like, hey, I suck at cutting hair, but it doesn't matter.
But you have good taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're working on taste.
I've been told I have good taste, and I'm worried more now about doing things that are tasteful as opposed to doing things that are technically challenging. I mean, some of the looks I put up on my Instagram page aren't even cut. Like, I'll style someone's hair before I even cut it, because I don't want people to look at me and go, he's another skilled hair cutter. He's another, technically profound. And furthermore, like, not that I'm opposed to barbers, but I don't like being mistaken for one, because it offends barbers that I know, and they've called me a poser, and they've said, like, oh, you're a wannabe barber. And I'm not. I want to do something different. Like, yeah. Just because I do men's hair doesn't mean I'm a barber. It doesn't mean I'm trying to be one.
Yeah, I think that's cool. What is Jody's Instagram handle? Do you know?
Jody Taylor Hair.
Jody Taylor Hair, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I started following him because you mentioned a little thing on Instagram the other day, and I followed him instantly, and I thought it was some amazing work. So let's talk about Instagram, because you are definitely an anomaly. I mean, I talked about today on stage how originally we were just going to open this up to 6 people. Within 2 hours, those 6 people, it was sold out. We decided to open up the class that we were doing to 12 people. Within 6 hours, that 12 people were sold out, and we almost had a sold out class today at the Analog at a bar that we just got done having this class at. What is it that you think that really kind of brought that whole like people to follow you? Like if somebody wanted to start building their following on Instagram, or is that even something that you think is super necessary? And really, that's probably 2 different questions.
It is.
So really, you could actually.
I'll take it in two pieces. Cool. Okay, so I think the biggest difference between my Instagram account and any other one hair cutter that I've seen is I don't want to show you how good I cut hair. I don't want to show you how talented I am. I want to show you how good my client looks. I don't word things about like what I did as far as the cut goes. I don't want any of the attention. I mean, I do. I'm a human being. I like being told that I'm good at things, but I don't want to show off how good I am. I want to show off how good my client looks. And so many of the other Instagrams that I see, it's like they'll zoom in on the fade here, and it's like, okay, the fade looks good, but how does the client look? And like
that's
I said,
taste. Actually,
exactly.
That's
so,
the definition of.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've learned that if everybody's doing a fade, and I'll just use a fade for an example because it's popular right now. If everybody's doing a fade, then a fade becomes vanilla. It doesn't matter how fresh and new it was when it came around; it becomes vanilla. If something is everybody's doing it, it becomes vanilla. And I don't want to fight to make the best vanilla because only one company gets to make the best vanilla. So I try not to post things the way everybody posts them. I try to do something totally different. I'm going to make like some obscure ass flavor that's like the opposite of vanilla. So with my Instagram account, I guess that's the biggest difference, is I don't want to do what everyone's doing better than they're doing it. I want to do the opposite of what they're doing. So when I see a lot of slick back looks, I'll take someone's hair and I'll comb it straight forward and give them a bowl haircut, just to piss off the people who don't realize that I'm trying to piss off the people. I don't know. And then, what was the next part? Has it been beneficial?
Or is it beneficial to somebody like where they're thinking maybe I need to do that in order to find some sort of success in the modern,
Okay, that is a good question, because I get so many ends of the spectrum. Like some people go, oh, you have 80,000 followers, you must be set. Like I never have to work for anything again. And then I get other people who go, oh, being famous on Instagram is like being rich in Monopoly. But when strangers stop me at Disneyland to take a picture, it doesn't feel like Monopoly. It feels good. It's fun.
Yeah.
But truth be told, I get opportunities because of my following. I get offers like, here's free product, just tell people you use it. And I get invited to shows. I get invited to things. So I would say that it definitely makes it easier to get opportunities, but you still have to work your ass off. You have to get on the plane and go. You have to get up and talk. You have to do, even on a smaller scale, it was getting new people in the door for me. But I just have guys who would come in who just have bad hair, and they'd sit down and say, every haircut I've ever gotten has been horrible, but I saw your numbers, so you must be able to fix it. I'm like, I never made any claims that I can fix any problem. Or people would come in and assume that I'm going to do a better fade than the next guy because I have the following. And like I said, I never made such promises, but people assume because of the numbers that they get to decide, oh, well, there's numbers there, so you must be better at this. And it's not so. I'm not better.
What kind of music are you into right now?
Two different things. Okay, for a long time I was into the 90s alternative stuff, and I still am. Failure is like my favorite band of all time. Fantastic Planet is like the best record ever made. But in the past few months I've been going into very weird different directions. I've been getting into more like kind of stoner rock and like doomy stuff, like really down-tuned, heavy, sludgy, dark. I really like that band Kylesa.
Okay.
Have you heard them?
Uh-huh.
They're like super drop, down-tuned guitars, but very sludgy and heavy. And they have a female vocalist, and she does these like weird ghostly vocals, and it almost sounds like My Bloody Valentine type vocals, and lots of layered up ambient noises and things, but with really like doomy, sludgy guitar work over it. aside from that, I've actually been getting into classical music.
Oh, wow.
And that's been fun and different for me. I've always wanted to learn to appreciate it, and I was never able to stick to it. I would listen to like 2 songs and be like, I don't know what the heck I'm listening to, and it wouldn't really do anything for me. But I found a blog recently, and I forget where it is. I wish I could remember so I could mention it. But they had a list of like 100 classical songs. They said, listen to this list, and they set it up for people who have never listened to classical. So the first couple songs are really common and easy to digest. It's all the ones you would like expect. Like when I say classical music, when you think of classical music, you probably think of these exact songs, are the common ones. But as the list goes on, it gets more and more obscure. And so I think I'm at like the 30th song by now, and Spotify makes it easy. And I've actually really been enjoying it. Like it makes me want to listen to all kinds of music without lyrics. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's I don't know. It feels like a brain massage. It's like if that makes sense. Like I don't know. Just it's like relaxing but stimulating at the same time.
Cool. Something else that I think is actually quite fascinating. I've seen some of your work on Instagram and whatnot. But you are also you make, as a hobby, you make electric guitars.
I do.
Yeah.
Basically, when my music career was coming to an end, there was a particular guitar that I wanted to buy, a Fender Jazzmaster. And at that time, it wasn't very popular. It was just starting to become popular. And so there was like one version of it out there you could buy, and it was like $1,600. And so I would sit and Google it, you know, like you do when you want something, you just look at it online all day. And I would look for it on Craigslist and hope that somebody was selling one for $1, or like look at eBay and hope that an auction was going to end real low. And during this time that I was like just obsessing over this guitar, I happened upon a forum where there was a whole mod section where people were like modifying and building these. And one guy literally took a 2x4 from Home Depot or something and laminated them side by side and cut a Jazzmaster out, and the finished product looked exactly like it came out of the factory.
Wow.
And I was blown away. I was like, dude, people could do that like in their garage? And so I started reading this forum, and I gave it a shot. My first guitar didn't look pretty, but it functioned. It played as a guitar. I think it cost me like, I don't know, $50 to make it, just using really crappy parts. And I ended up selling it to a friend and profited $40 on it. So then I bid on a drill press on eBay, and I got it for $40. So my second guitar had straight holes. Next thing you knew, I was just, anytime I had spare time, I was out in the garage building guitars. I probably made, I don't know, 70 by now. There was a time 3 or 4 years ago, right before my hair career started to really take off, where I wanted to quit doing hair and just make guitars for a living. So for a while I was doing it on the side and even making a couple bucks doing it. But I even interviewed in the Fender custom shop and know a few guys down there now, but it just didn't pan out. Like my friends who are making it in guitar making, they are like remarkable individuals. Like they have the way that they do their work, I'm like, I could never learn to do that. Much like I could never learn to fade the way that I was attempting to fade before. So I don't know, I think it's weird. I don't know that I'm lazy, but I don't like to do things that I know I'm not going to be good at. And so that's what guitar making eventually turned into for me. I still do it because it's fun, but I don't want to make a career out of it. I just do it to unwind.
Kind of backtracking a little bit. We talked a little bit about your history, and we talked about that time where you were thinking about potentially leaving the industry, which I think all of us have those feelings. I mean, I have those. I feel like once a month, almost even once a day. It's like, why the hell am I doing this? You've mentioned who inspires you. Well, right now, music-wise, classic music, whatnot. You mentioned who inspires you, marketing-wise. Is there anybody that inspires you hair-wise, and who are they?
Ooh, that's a good one. Going back to this thing I keep saying that I don't care about technical skill, I don't care about, profound abilities. To me, it's more about being kind of fearless and bold with hair. And I think some of the people I've been seeing doing that the most lately are people who aren't even big in hair. People who I'm looking at going, dude, if he keeps that up, he will be big. This kid, Henry, in Florida, Henlo92, I think is his Instagram name. He's doing the opposite of what so many people are doing. He keeps doing these messy styles. He keeps doing these grown-in looks that are not dapper and not tight, and he's doing it fearlessly, and he's doing it as if he doesn't realize that he's doing something so different. and I don't even think he knows that he's making a statement with this. I think he's just doing it. So I see guys like that popping up. I can't believe I mentioned him before I mentioned my real inspiration is famous Scott Ramos from Montreal.
Okay.
He's
somebody mentioned him actually today on the questionnaire.
Yeah, he's a barber slash hairstylist. He's trained in both, and I don't think anybody is more technically skilled than he is. Like I look at his haircuts and he has a perfect blend of like technical skill and taste. Everything, like he puts weight in the right places. Where typically, if you're so interested in doing a smooth blend, you end up displacing weight in inappropriate ways. And he's mindful of that. Like the weight's always in the right places. Like everything flows. He has a lot of movement. But like, why is this guy so good and cool? Where other barbers are like, Andrew, you can't blend the way I can. Ugh. And this guy's like, you don't need to. You're good at what you do. But he's killing it still because he blends better than anybody. So I don't know. So Scott is definitely one of them. So Henry, Scott, Jody, of course. I think I talked about him a little bit earlier, but.
So last question.
Go.
And this is a question that I try to ask at all the interviews I do, and it's one that just kind of gets a lot of good response. What sort of animal do you identify with? Not necessarily do you like or whatnot, but what sort of animal do you identify with and why?
One, because of personal reasons, and another because of something I learned in a book. The first would probably be a pig. Because they're typically seen as, people are like, oh, pigs are dirty, pig spy, pigsty, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, people who know a little more, they're like, actually, they're very clean animals. And so there's a lot of my first answer. The second is hedgehog, and that's because of that stupid book. Not stupid book, but Good to Great says to be a hedgehog and not a fox. Have you heard of this concept?
You actually told me to get the book, and I went and got it.
Okay, so yeah, the hedgehog. I do one trick, and I do it well enough. And instead of trying to do everything, I do one thing. So,
Andrew, it was awesome. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I had a great time with you. It was a great class, a great interview. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is Joe Blackwell Preston, and you're watching Set TV.